And hello, everybody. Welcome once again to Agency Real Talk. I'm Trevor,
And I'm Tom.
and we're
And
here to
we're
talk
here
about agencies
and how to grow them and how to automate them and market them and do all the things that you need to do with your agency if you're running one
for real. That's the
real
name.
fast.
And today, so I think 2 episodes ago, for our dedicated listeners, all both of them, I think we had it was agency nightmare stories, right? When a bad client goes worse, or when bad clients happen to good agencies, or some similarly pithy thing. I thought today we'd talk about when good clients happen to. I mean, let's not determine the quality of the agency. Any agency, what makes for a fairy tale client, and how maybe you can try to get a fairy tale client yourself. And then we'll share some stories, because what are we but a pair of grumpy old men talking in the wilderness?
So the fairy tale. What does a client even look like? Right? Is it someone that just pays their bills on time?
I mean,
Is
that's
it
a low
somebody?
bar.
I mean, no, yeah, agency life, right? Is it somebody that maybe overpays a bill or communicates really well or gives you a bunch of referrals? What is a fairy tale client?
I think
Um,
that's a good question. I think you probably have an answer. That was a rhetorical one, so go ahead and go.
I have an answer for some fairy tale clients that I've had. I think the only consistent thread is the inconsistency that you stumble upon them. They find you. You just kind of run into them throughout your time. You get some good ones. You get some nightmare clients, but fairy tale clients are equally few and far between and hold a very special place. For me at least, there's a number of fairy tale clients I've had. Um, Shout out if you're watching, but really, I think
Shout out nameless company, because we won't go. NDAs cut
yeah,
both ways, brother.
just don't want to
Yeah,
ruffle
that's
any
right.
feathers.
Just like you don't name the bad ones, you probably shouldn't name the good ones.
Probably shouldn't, because then they'd get pitched, right? Like,
Yeah,
from our millions of
yeah. Oh,
subscribers, they'd get pitched saying,
yeah.
"Hey, I want that fairy tale client." So I'll take you back to a time when I was very inexperienced running my agency, and we did project-based work. So we would bid on a project, and we'd say, "Yeah, I think I can get this done in a week, $5,000." Or, "Oh, I think this could be done in a month, $6,000." Right? Sometimes those numbers didn't exactly make sense, and that was the whole thing about being an inexperienced agency owner. I really didn't know how to price, really didn't know how to value my own work. So I had a team of people, and we were working on this project. First stint of the guess and check game went really well. We won the deal, we delivered it, and it was great. So now it was time to renew the deal. Well, there were some external pressures happening in this particular scenario where the client had a time crunch and needed this work done within the next month and a half, something like that. So we said, "Hey, $6,500, whatever the number actually was," and they said, "Okay, sure, go. Whatever it is, let's just go." A week into the project, the client notices something. They're like, "Man, these guys are working around the clock. They are, pushing it on the weekends, trying to figure out how this is going to be delivered by the time my deadline is in 5 weeks now at this point." So I got a call on a Saturday afternoon from the client directly to my cell phone. And
By the
in
way, that's never something you want to have happen.
generally, it's not a good thing, right?
You get that, and you're like, "Ah, man, I was going to go to a barbecue. Do I really want to pick up? Maybe I'm out of office." Eh,
Yeah. Hello? Yeah.
yeah.
It was just like that. It was just like that. Exchange niceties, right? Hello, how you doing? Whatever. And in no uncertain words, in the client basically says, "Look, you underbid this project, and I know how hard you're working on it, and I want to give you guys a bonus. Now, we don't need to capture this in a contract or anything like that, but I'm going to give you a few extra $1,000, and I just want you to make sure, you, Tom, to make sure that this actually gets delivered. Not the project manager that was on the project, not the lead engineer, not the lead designer. He wanted my reassurance personally." And I said, you know, Wow, thank you. Of course, I would accept additional funds for this project. You are absolutely right. We underbid the project and we're working like crazy to try to make it happen. And I appreciated the non awkward conversation I needed to have in week 4 or 5 to say, hey, I need some more money. Right. Um, and they beat me to that realization. And as a young entrepreneur running an agency, I just had no idea how to value my time or my work. And this particular client, Fairytale client, recognized that and was able to teach me something in the process. So that's my first story I could share today.
That's pretty good. I think there's a couple elements that made this a good fit for you. I think they're broadly true. I'll relay a story too in a moment. They're broadly true about what makes for a fairy tale client. One of them is not every client is a fit for every agency, even really good agencies, like just to pick two names out of a hat, X-Ray Automation or Crowd Tamers. Even really phenomenally good agencies. Not every client's a good fit, right? And I've had, recently, what last week, had a call with the lead who has tons of money and just doesn't get the approach, right?
Mm.
And I could be like, give me monies, please. I'll do whatever. Just you know, tell me you love me. I'll do whatever. But that you're going to regret that. And then communication style matters a lot. I'm not as much of a people person as you are, Tom, or as almost anybody I ever talk to is, who are all like, people matter. And I'm like, but do they? And uh, finding somebody who's good with how you communicate. Some people love meetings. They want to have
Mm.
2 or 3 or 5 meetings a week. And I would sooner take a melon baller and poke out my eyeballs than do 5 meetings a week with somebody. Um, I communicate async. My whole team is async. We get together precisely 1 hour a week, and the rest of it, people do whatever they want to do. I don't care, man. Um, they that's the two. I think the minimums are if they work with your communication style and if um, they fit what you want to do. They're really good clients. There's some more we can talk about later. But to give an example of a client I recently acquired, um, I had a this is quite recent. On March 9th, I acquired them, and so I tend to work on two ways.
Already
One is
Fairytale from
already
March
fairy
9th?
tale. Already well because I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Um, one, they'd worked with me before. That helps.
Okay. Yeah. There you go.
But I would caveat that they worked with me before and they stiffed me for $20,000.
Whoa.
Kind of. It was they
That
signed a
sounds like a
contract.
nightmare client.
They signed a contract worth X amount, and then they were like, "I'm out of money. Goodbye."
Hmm.
Now I don't do work until I've gotten the month's payment, so they didn't really stiff me. But also, like I had a hole in my income projections for the next 2 months where that money was supposed to be. So okay, fine, fair enough. That doesn't sound like this is going to be a good relationship, but they've worked with me before. They knew what I do, how I work, and the sales call was literally, "Hey, I've got this business. We have this money. We have this time frame. Can we go?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then they're in a how much can I disclose without getting in trouble? They have a software that automates collecting Google reviews for a certain type of local business. Cool. Um, that's a very niche product. I love a niche product, and they were a niche of a niche. They're just one vertical. I said to the client, "I don't feel like you're in the right vertical. I know you brought me in to fix this, but I think this is like no matter how hard you work swatting flies with a sledgehammer, like yeah, you can, but there's probably a better use for the tool. And I think this is a case where there's probably a better use for this tool." And the client was open-minded enough to go, "You know what, Trevor? Carte blanche, do some stuff, right?" And because what I do are these minimum viable $100 48-hour tests, like when you say carte blanche, do some stuff, the risk is very low, and he knew this. So he was like, "Take $300 and go crazy." So like the risk he had was quite small. But what we found out was almost immediately a different vertical did 3 times better than the one he was in. Now he
Whoa.
bought this business. This wasn't his business originally. He bought this business that was marginal. He thought maybe I can fix it up and then actually have it be worth something. So on the 9th, he does this. By I think the 14th, we have enough data to say, "Hey, you need to pivot." And he goes, "Let's pivot." That's the other thing is when you hire an expert and they tell you something, believe them, which
Wow.
is so many clients don't, right? You hire an expert. It's like you go to the doctor and he said, I think you have cancer. And you go, but do I? I was told it's the flu. And second opinion or not, like I don't believe any of you doctors. It's the flu. I'm going to dose myself with chamomile tea and get better. That's the Steve Jobs approach to medicine. Didn't work well for him. And when a client is willing to listen to you when you say do a thing, that like there's a whole other level, right? Client who communicates well with you, client who understood the value prop, who bought, and then client who said, "Great, you said this makes more sense. Let's do it." And we just launched today now. So what is this? The 27th. We're now getting them leads and signups for a little less than half the cost of what they had been doing.
Wow.
And so client, and also I work on project basis, right? Guarantee certain ROAS. Technically, I'm 3 weeks in, contract is fulfilled, and he owes me the entire balance of the contract. Now, I'm going to continue to put some work into this over the next 3 months while the rest of the contract pays out. But also, like, got the result he wanted really fast. He listened to me, and now we're like, he's making money off a business he bought that wasn't making money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big win, right? And
Definitely.
not just a win, which of course feels good, but also everything aligned in the way that I want things to work when I work with a client is you hire crowd tamers to answer the big question of how do we go to market. We had an answer. He said, do it. It worked better. It made more money, and away we go. Like if I could do that every month, I would feel more fulfilled.
Well, it sounds like that fairy tale client walked their way right into your life, and you're not going to be able to get rid of them anytime soon.
I mean, I'm not going to want to get rid of them, so that's good.
Yeah.
Right? Client who pays on time, which he did, and does what you want. There you go. I think there are some other things that matter in a client relationship too. One of them is I was talking on a podcast I recorded today, which will come out April because I'm behind on my podcast releases. But whatever. We discussed how The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck, which is a book about romantic relationships, also actually applies a lot to business ones because in some ways they're a lot alike. And there's the cycle you go around of, things just kick off. You and your significant other slash client are getting to know each other. Like everything's awesome. We're on a Ferris wheel, right? We're going up. Oh, this is awesome. Things are phenomenal. Uh, Probably there shouldn't be any sex life with the clients, but you get the idea. Things are getting better. Up you go. And then you reach a apex. Things have gotten to the top. And then things start to go down, right? Stuff shifts late. Uh, Client makes an unreasonable request. They pay a month late, whatever. You come around and find to the bottom where you reach the zenith. You're at the worst things are. And you can either say, yeet, I'm out of here. Or you can go, maybe I'll stick around and see if the Ferris wheel turns back up again. And with every client, you have this cycle. The question is, how big is the wheel, right?
Mm.
Because if the
Mm-hmm.
ups are only a bit up and the downs are only a bit down, that's stable and you can live with it. If the ups are really up and the downs are really down, this is a bipolar relationship, and that's considered a mental illness for a reason.
I haven't heard that analogy before, as far as the life cycle or relationship with the client. I think that's pretty holds pretty true in my experience. You definitely go through that honeymoon phase of everything is great. This is going to be an awesome project, and then inevitably there's a request or a thing slides a week or two, and then people just want to make sure that what you said is what you'll do will be what you did, right? You got to tell them what you're going to tell them. You got to tell them, and then you got to tell them what you told them. That's the old agency adage. Um, but yeah, the other thing that I would add also to, I guess, characteristics of fairy tale clients. I've had some really great clients that teach me something intentionally and go out of their way to educate me about their business, about their industry, about running businesses generally. If you're speaking to another co founder of a different company, just the willingness, I think, to get into the details and share something that they've learned is a pretty tried and true characteristic of a fairy tale client, because it goes way beyond the bounds of this one engagement in this one circumstance for these companies, right? You mentioned having this fairy tale client, after a couple of weeks. Yeah, you had some experience with them at a previous company. That's no surprise. That's a recurring pattern that I think a lot of fairy tale clients get to have. Is they had one experience with you, they trust you, they know that you'll do what you say that you'll do, and then can really accelerate the entirety of the relationship and the opportunity, because there's that base level of trust there.
Yeah. And I had, speaking of another podcast I've recorded with one of my clients a while back, he runs a consultancy that teaches people how to be better mentors. Uh, and I'm a mentor for a whole bunch of startups. And I had an interview with him, which when I released in a couple more weeks, he basically was like, here's what good mentors do, and here's what bad mentors do. And I'm like, why are all the things that you said bad mentors do what I do? I've been doing this for 8 years now. And to have him, to have somebody, he was kind about it, but school me on like, hey, so a bad mentor tells you what to do. A good mentor is more Socratic and says, why have you found yourself in this place? And how do you get yourself out of this situation?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, way
Because
to
you ain't got
call
time
me
for
out.
that.
Yeah. That is part of it, right? My mentoring calls are like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If I ask one question, by the time we're done, it's like, cool, you've now explained the first of the 5 whys. So, talk in a month? Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
part of it. But I think there are ways to improve the practice. I think teaching you something is a sign of a good client, somebody who's thinking more deeply than uh, just, hey, what's the transaction I'm engaging in right now?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely. One mindset lesson I was shared from a client was focusing around, he was in the VC space, very taking some big shots, right? He was aspiring to be, running his own venture capitalist firm. So he was making some small bets here and there, and doing some things on the side. And he clarified with me once what his goals were, and that's, I just want to play the game and take a couple of shots at the fence, right? Just be like, get a base hit, do the things that you can do, like easy, low level things, and then have a couple of opportunities that could go real far, real deep, that I'm loosely connected to. And it's not what you're basing your own self perception, your own value, self worth on, those big shots that you're taking at the fence. It's, no, I pride myself on just getting base hits and being able to also have the opportunity to, maybe one day things will work out, and really get a big hit. But I really internalize that, because I think it's so easy, especially with all of this AI stuff. Oh, we're gonna hit it big, we're gonna take some big opportunity and ride off into the sunset and end up on the moon. And it's just a lot more sustainable to have that mindset of, just do what you can today, chip away, lay the bricks, and be able to have another opportunity tomorrow.
that's a real good lesson. That is, I spoke at Democratize AI last week. I was in San Francisco. And the talk I gave was uh, Henry Ford invents almost nothing, really. We
Almost.
credit him with a bunch. What he really did was he made a bunch of money by taking several ideas that we knew and creating the modern automobile as we know it. But the key component, the biggest part of a car by weight, is steel. So
Hmm.
the most important element of a car, arguably, is steel. The person who invented modern day steel spent 10 years and 10,000 experiments to solve the problem of how do you make corrosion resistant ductile steel at scale. His name was Henry Forrester. No one's heard of him. He died comfortably middle class, like a bunch of people do, and came up with this process. Charles Bessemer of Bessemer Steel took it, made billions. Henry Ford took that, made billions. You don't make billions by being Henry Forrester. You make billions by being Henry Ford. Don't solve the hard problems. Solve the necessary ones, and that is a way uh, to really succeed. Right? Get the base hits in, and hope you get a home run because you're not swinging for the fences every time. That's a way to wear yourself out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Trevor.
So that,
Um,
that was my democratized AI talk in
yeah, I'm
30
bummed I
seconds.
missed it. That sounds
Uh,
like a great talk. And I'm curious. But before we change any gears and switch in any other direction here, are there any other fairy tale clients stories you wanna shout out here?
so I have an interesting one. Maybe I think it's interesting. So we have fairy tale clients, right? All these alignments. Sometimes a fairy tale client goes bad, and I think that's also instructive to realize. Just because things are going great, just like any relationship, they can change. I had a client in the hardware space who all the landmarks of a great client had the exact problem I solved, was fine with comms the way we did them, listened when the data led them, and made a big pivot and took their hardware product, changed the use of it, although not the actual product, added a bit of software functionality to it, um, and increased their sales from about, I want to say, $250 a week, which
Mhm.
for a 12-person company is losing a lot of money, to about 25,000 a week.
Wow.
And so big shift. And this was during COVID. We didn't make it a sale, we made it a rental, a 90-day rental, and you sent it back. And so since trying to get new hardware was freaking impossible, they were going to run out at the new velocity. And instead we made it a rental and you sent it back, and they would redo the exterior of it, recondition it, and send it back out again. So did really, really well for them. And then they hired a VP of marketing to come run this because now things were scaling up and serious. And the new VP of marketing wasn't data led, didn't like how I did comms, and didn't understand why crowd tamers did what we did. And so made a bunch of changes that decreased the performance of all the key metrics of what they did. And when I was like, WTF, man, he's like, no, the brand experience is better. My answer was, your brand experience can go screw itself, because what makes more money is what should. This is a business. This is not an art project. Um, and then in the end, in the attempt to fix things, this is when I learned the hard way. Don't listen to a Google Ads rep if they talk to you. By the by, if a Google Ads rep talks to any of you listening to this, don't believe them because they lie. Follow the recommendation of a Google Ads rep and drop sales from 20,000 a week to about 700 a week.
That sounds like
Uh,
a problem.
and in a unrevertible change, they went, hey, how about you 4x the budget on this? There's room. And so I did. And Google AI was like, what? And dropped the spend down to about $40 a day. Now, we had meta ads running as well to drive some sales, but the Google ad spend went from thousands a day to like $40 a day. And the Google ad rep was just like, oh, yeah, that happens sometimes. You'll have to wait a month or two until it sorts itself out. So
Whoa.
client fired me then, as they probably should, because I didn't tell them not to believe the Google rep, even though their VP of marketing was on the call when the Google rep said this, and we did it. They were still like, we don't understand what you do. You didn't tell us not to do this. You're fired. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But
Oh man.
that went from everything was great, right? I worked for them like a year, was printing the money. We were all so happy. And then in the space of like 2 months, just like, and part of that, I'll take ownership for believing a Google Ads rep, which I did know better. But this guy was like the tier two because we were spending so much, like the highest level of Google Ads rep. I'm like, maybe this guy knows his stuff. The client was gung ho to do it. And I wasn't like, Google Ads reps always lie. Never believe them. Now I do. I don't have the tattoo. It's engraved on my soul. Um, so Google Ads rep, Meta Ads rep lie too. Like they both do. Don't believe them. But the lesson there for me was like when the client changes like that, a good client can very well become a bad fit client, even though they were still paying. I mean, they had more money now. They raised a $17 million Series B because they suddenly showed go to market fit. But like that can happen. And don't get so set in your ways that this is a good client that you don't recognize that things have changed. The magic's not in the relationship anymore. You want who you used to be, sweetheart.
Well, those sales and ad reps are going to do what those sales and ad reps do. They're going to try to sell and add more stuff. But that's a
Ironically,
shame.
Google Ads rep are comped by if they increase your spend. And so that guy also was forced to leave the account because the spend went from it was like four
High
grand a
enough, but
day,
not high enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
to 40 bucks a day. So the spend went too low to have him be the ad rep anymore. And I remember being like, "Well, you done shot yourself in your own foot, brother." And the answer of just being like, "It happens sometimes." Like,
Yeah.
anyway,
Oh
so
man.
that's fairy tale client was bad. Anyway, I think there's one more type you mentioned. I've had some of them too. Um, if a client loves you, what's the thing you most want to see them do for you?
What is referrals for 300?
Yes,
Yes, that
yes.
uh, I have a couple clients that have just been way above and beyond with referrals, and we're talking about maybe an hourly customer that comes in. I talk to for 15 minutes or an hour or a couple of hours, turn into tens of thousands of referral dollars from them. And of course there's ways to appropriately thank that person in various ways, but at the end of the day, like, referrals are the lifeblood of the agency, right? You're constantly looking to find the next opportunity, and if your one opportunity that you have now can turn into one or two or 10 opportunities, like for tomorrow, that is just a massive win for you. And that sort of goes into creating channel partners and being able to really have meaningful partnerships with other organizations in your space, adjacent to your space. But as far as like a fairy tale client goes, like, if you can really make an impression with somebody, build that rapport, and be able to understand and empathize with what they're trying to do or the problem that they have, chances are they're not the only one with the problem that they're coming to you with. And it becomes real easy to say, hey, this Trevor guy actually solved this problem. And here's 10 of my other friends running similar companies that also have this problem. And hey, we found one, right? There's this little bit of fogginess in the tech sector, especially of like, is this snake oil or not, right? Is this agency actually going to help me? Or are they just going to try to sell me on more hours? And people have been burned in various ways with Fiverr and Upwork and freelancer.com and like all of those types of sites. It's just a hard process to navigate for somebody who's non-technical trying to solve a problem urgently. So, being able to solve a problem for somebody like that and turning into referrals is pretty much a fairy tale.
That is, I agree. Awesome. I have somebody, not even a client, just a guy I know who's referred me like, I don't know, 80 or 110 grand something in business. And yeah, I was like, how do I thank you? What do I do? Like, I'll ship you $1,000 bottle of whiskey, bro. I don't know, whatever, man. Right? What do you want? He's like, no, it's fine. I like what you're doing. And that's so, like, that's crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
But like, props, thanks anybody who's in that space who's just like, hey, let me send business your way. Much appreciated.
Well,
Uh,
I mean,
and then
I've
yeah,
done something similar too. Like when we make intros to other freelancers or share work around, like, we don't take a commission on that. Like, it's yours. Like, just solve this person's problem and let me know that it worked out okay. It's just, it's not worth the nickel and diming, or it's not worth the extra energy of trying to say, hey, I referred you this person and I'm keeping track on my tabulator machine. There's just better ways to spend your energy and relationships.
there definitely are. I work with a few channel partners who are like paid to refer me business. I've got a few folks who just sent up my way because they're friends. Both are cool. I love them both. But it is when somebody who you hardly know is like, hey, let me refer you a bunch of business because I think what you're doing is cool. That's like a
That's special.
that's special, right? So I agree. Intros and referrals, and then the thing is, and I'm bad about this. You probably aren't. I'm so bad at asking a client, "Hey, can I get a referral?" Like even the ones who are happy with me, which, let's be fair, the way I just phrased that's like that's rare. Most clients are happy with me. Even the occasional one who's dumb enough to like me. No, so if I have ones who are, the marginal clients who aren't as happy with me, I'm not going to ask them. But out of my current list of 12, like the 10 probably who are like doing great work, Trevor, uh, none of them. I talk to them like once a week or twice a month, and I'm always just like, "Yep, here's what's going on next." And never once am I like, "Hey, could you mention somebody who you think I could help? Refer me into somebody." I'm so bad about it. I've gotten to where I'm now setting up reminders in my CRM,
Oh,
where
not
90
bad.
days after they move to basically after they move to client start, it sets a reminder to be like, just all caps, ask for an effing referral. That's
Mm,
all.
that is very crowd tamers.
That is very crowd tamers.
I actually said goodbye to a client that was with us for like a little over 2 years, two and a half,
Oh,
3 years yesterday.
oof.
And it was great to see them on a call. Great to hand them all the material, all the diagrams, all the automations, all the documentation that we have, all the stuff. And they had a new head of product, and it's like under they grew. They went from 6 people to like 35, and now they have a role at their company to do what we were maintaining for them. So shared them all the stuff and set them up, and it's it's exciting. It's definitely exciting. And but we, to your point, I forgot to ask for a referral. Maybe they'll see this video and tag some people in the comments and stuff.
Refer business Tom's way.
Yeah, it's okay. We're busy enough. The next 2 weeks, I don't want anything new. We've got an offsite next week. We've got a lot of things going on. It's just like, all right, we gotta take things slow, in due time for sure.
I get you. I get you. All right, awesome. Well, so that's what makes a fairy tale client. I think the last thing is how do you find them? And the answer might be it's a bit random. I think there are some ways to find them, but I'm curious. How do you think you can find a fairy tale client?
Um, I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason to it, to be honest. I would have said they find you. That was going to be my answer before you answered, because I just think um, there's no real way to. You're not going to find them in outbound. I
No,
mean, if you're reaching out to thousands of people a week to try to subscribe or buy your service, chances are you're not going to find fairy tale clients. You're going to find transactional clients.
very much.
You're going to find people that say, "Oh, you sell a thing, I'll buy the thing for half the price, and maybe I'll do it." Right? That's what outbound gets you. I think it's inbound. I think it's just being really, if you're able to really communicate on a person level instead of a business level, like that's the only way I could put a box around it, is like you're really building a relationship with the individual, and there happens to be companies involved that have some financial transaction happening, but really it's like, no, this is a person that, like, we're actually friends. We enjoy spending time with each other. We enjoy building something or solving a problem together. I don't know. That's my take. I don't think you can formulaically find them.
So I do think referrals make it likely.
Yeah, sure.
I also think expectation setting up front,
Mm,
because the better you onboard a client, the more likely they are to be a fairy tale client. And back when I started my agency in the wee early mist of, I think, 2021, forever ago, um, back then, I didn't understand how to onboard clients very well. I probably still am only meh at it. But
mm,
at the time, I was like, this is performance marketing. Everyone knows performance marketing. And away I went. And of course, that's not true. They hire you because they don't know how to do the thing that you do. So, like, never explain an acronym, never explain the differences between different platforms. Don't discuss your process. Just hop right in and say, this is what we're doing. Good luck figuring it out. I'm off, right?
yeah.
None of those clients were fairy tale clients. The better I get at making very clear this is the box that I am working in. If you want things outside the box, ask. Always, sure, yes. But the answer will almost always be here's the freelancer I know who does that.
Hmm.
And in my little box, we deliver this much, this fast, this well. If you hold up your end of the bargain, everything goes. And the clients who really see that up front and buy in on it are the ones who are more likely to be a fairy tale.
Expectation setting. We could do a whole episode just on expectation setting.
We
I
should.
mean,
I'll write down the next one.
yeah, yeah. And let us know in the comments below if there's any topics you'd like us to cover on Agency Real Talk.
There you go.
Yeah, I think expectation setting. If you can, if I think part of it is setting the expectations with yourself. That's actually the really hard thing to do. I expect this of myself in the services that I render. And then being able to do the added step of communicating directly to your client what their expectations should be and what they shouldn't be, almost more importantly, almost, that will really help just calibrate everyone's expectations and like lower the guard of, is this person trying to screw this up? Right? Like it just really aligns you to work together on a problem, against a problem, instead of you working against them to try to solve a problem. It's like you and them working against the problem, right? Aligning good expectations actually get you on the same side of that equation. And that pays dividends for a long time.
It really does. Well, awesome. Hopefully, our audience has found this working. I see on X-Ray's side, we peaked at 3 viewers. So when I was saying we had 2, I was undershooting things by a gross margin. So to our viewers and the folks who get the social snippets, which is really how folks consume this content, is that I'm the mustache is always your top YouTube Shorts post for the week when you use it. Thanks for tuning in as always. Appreciate it. Tom, if someone wants to know more about you, where do they find you?
You can find us on YouTube at X-Ray Automation, where we teach you how to save time. So follow us there.
Yeah, and I'm on YouTube at launch today because at Crowd Tamers was taken by me actually, but I've forgotten the password for that account. So I'm as at launch today, and I'm also I'm on crowdtamers.com. I'm LinkedIn as LinkedIn/Trevor Longino. We point to it there. There's just one of me. So appreciate your time, everybody. Today we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye-bye.